Shelley is asking, John, from your experience, how many in a psychology-related field suffer from you spot it, you got it? I think, in other words, she's meaning projection. The scariest person I have met in psychology, the scariest person she ever met is a PhD in psychology. And there was another woman that said her ex-husband was a psychologist and a narcissist. It's a familiar story. You know, the firefighter that's an arsonist, the anti-gay preacher who ends up himself being gay. I mean, right. So let's go to psychology. The anti-gay preacher who ends up himself being gay. I mean, right. So let's go to psychology. What is the you spot it, you got it syndrome in psychology? How many would you say suffer from this type of thing?
I think psychology, although most people think of psychologists as having special insights into people, psychology is like any other field. It's like the legal field or any field with professionals, that there's a huge variance in people's skill sets and self-knowledge and abilities. And so it wouldn't be unusual that psychologists would have some narcissistic traits or psychopathic traits, and they might use some of their knowledge and insights in the field to manipulate and deceive others. So that's, every quarter I get a newsletter from my psychology boards, and it has ethical complaints. And every time I get a letter, there's complaints about therapists sleeping with their clients or somehow abusing their clients in some way. And to me, it's just unbelievable. It's unthinkable. So I think it's important to point out that, yes, there are psychologists that get into trouble, and the issue is usually the same, which is that there's generally a lack of some type of inner life or some type of insight into themselves or self-knowledge that they're really lacking. And so they don't really see their blind spots, and that gets them into trouble. And in fact, not only do they not see their blind spots, but they will go to extensive lengths to use what they know about people to deceive them and to manipulate them and use them. And so that's in some ways even worse, which is, by the way, why there's very severe penalties for psychologists or therapists who engage in sexual relationships with their clients. It's a very, very severe behavior with really traumatic repercussions. And so, yes, I don't know if I answered the question, but psychologists are, fortunately, I think it's a small percentage of psychologists, but we're certainly not immune from indiscretions, and we're human beings. And that's why I think it's important to me to constantly learn and evolve and try to grow and stay open, and to really look at my shortcomings and blind spots and to improve.
One of the people saying this because of this was on our show years ago. And I will say this, one of the worst moments I've ever had in 5 years, one of the moments that pissed me off to no end, unlike every other moment on any show I've ever been on, this person was on the show. And somebody, a viewer, asked a question of me that was extremely emotional. And I was pondering the question. You could see I was getting emotional. I was going to give one of the best responses I've ever given. And you know what happened? Because this person couldn't handle the fact that I was getting emotional, they cut me off. Yeah. They absolutely cut me off, refused to let me answer because they couldn't handle that emotion in a male, especially in a male, that raw emotion that I was about to express. And I was so angry. If this person wonders why she's not on our channel, you might want to look at yourself. You might want to look at the fact that you cut me off in one of the most critical moments on one of our shows that I've ever had. You might want to look at the fact that people didn't like you. You might want to look at the fact that you spoke over Lauren and myself. You might want to look at the fact that you thought you owned this channel when you didn't. You might want to look at the fact that there was a groundswell of people who despised you. So this idea of female stalkers being frivolous and silly and hysterical and overly emotional, most of the people saying that are males. Mm-hmm. Because they can't handle that type of emotion. They can't handle that vulnerability. So the easy response to that is to point the finger at you and say, you're lying, you're faking. Mm-hmm. The goal is not only to play in this, to fall into the stereotype of that only males are stalkers, only males can be violent. That's bullshit. The goal is to disempower you. The goal is to disempower all females that are stalked by other females. The goal is to make you look irrational. The goal is to make you look weak and stupid and irrational. It's to call you a liar, to discredit you. And you know what it's about? It's about the fact that these people cannot handle vulnerability. It's about the fact that years ago, when that person cut me off, she could not handle my vulnerability and my raw emotion. And I'm still pissed. Years later, I'm pissed that somebody cut me off when I was going to answer my question in probably the most vulnerable way I could ever answer a question. Because it was about my son, and it was about JJ. So I say to all the haters who are claiming that you're lying and that this can't be stalking, I say to them, I challenge them to look again.
Thank you for sharing that. You state that, as Lottie Eliza says, that she is a close family member who is forever diagnosing everyone and believes their opinion is gospel. They won't move from it. And I will say that John is somebody that stays very open. He's very humble. And yes, while dating him, I thought, oh, he's going to diagnose me, and I would get mad when he was looking at me too long. I'm like, what are you thinking? What do you know? And he is not that way. So thank you for sharing that and staying open. Right. So let's go to psychology.